Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from the Legal Action Group, which is the Access to Justice charity, and also from another organisation, the Council for Disabled Children. The book is now in a third edition, this book here. We're going to have a look at it in a moment. It's being written by Steve Broach and Luke Clements, and this particular edition has been updated by Luke Clements, and a number of people have been involved in the production of the book. Rebekah Carrier, Daniel Clarke, Chris Hatton, Mary Rachel McCabe, Camilla Parker, Louise Price, Katherine Runswick-Cole, Sara Ryan, Michael Spencer, Sara Steinhardt and Polly Sweeney. The book's available as an ebook, as also as a paperback. I've given it a title for our review, An Authoritative and Accessible Guide to the Legal Rights of Disabled Children, which is basically what you're getting with the book. It's a substantial work, as you can probably see. It's a paperback. There's the spine, and then the back. There's a little bit of blurb, probably can't make much of it out there. There is, of course, a shaded portion at the back of the book, which is where the appendices are. We'll look at them in a minute. Let's have a look at the index first of all. There's the index. And you can see that the index is by paragraph numbering. That's how it's actually produced. And the point I would make is the index is actually quite useful because you should be able to find what you're looking for quite easily. It's not a big index at all. Then you've got some appendices at the back in the shaded portion of the book. Appendix A is the legislation, which is the main part of it. And then in addition to that, you've got right at the back, you've got Appendix B, which is the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. That's at the back. Now the book runs to something approaching 600 odd pages. There's some information about the Council for Disabled Children at the back, which I hope will be of some interest to many people, depending on what sort of advice you're giving and what sort of case you have. The front of the book is there. You can see that's the main page. There's some blurb about Legal Action Group, and there's also the website, which will allow you to find things quite easily. Then there's some thanks given to various people involved in the book, which I'll refer to in a few minutes. Then there is an introduction, which is extremely helpful, setting out from Luke Clements, dated December 2019, where we are at the moment with the book. Then you've got after that the authors and their very substantial amount of detail running all the way through. I've mentioned them by name because there aren't too many of them. There we go. And there may be people that you'd know. Then there is the contents section, which is fairly detailed. Again, you should be able to find things pretty easily from the contents. Then we get on from that to the table of cases. And then from that, of course, to the statutes themselves. And then after the statutes, there are some statutory instruments, naturally. And after that, what we do have is a table of EU and international legislation. Always useful. It's still going to be with us, even though we've left the EU and we're still sorting everything out, and will be for some time. There is the abbreviations part of the book, very helpful indeed, because there are a lot of abbreviations. It's always useful to have abbreviations because the mind can suddenly freeze and you might not remember exactly what a particular abbreviation is, and this helps. I did find it helpful. Then you've got a little index before the actual book itself starts, the body copy as we call it. There's an introduction. There are some shaded key points as well, which will be very helpful to anyone who's new to the publication. So you see the introduction, you can see the paragraph numbering at the side of the book. And of course there is substantial footnoting throughout. The book, as I say, is a heavy-ish book for 600 odd pages, but I think it's a very important book. And in this short review, I propose to just say a little bit about, make sure this stands up properly, give you some indication of what this book is about. I haven't dealt with many cases in this area of law. It's a difficult area. I do quite a lot of work with children and some who have disabilities, but I certainly welcome this book. It's a first-class publication from the Legal Action Group and the Council for Disabled Children, and it's now in the 3rd edition. I'm recording this in 2020, beginning of 2020, when the book appeared, and obviously it will be hopefully with us for a little while in the 3rd edition. Now, the Legal Action Group's mission statement, I think, is important to set out here, because their aim is to promote equal access to justice for all members of society who are socially, economically or otherwise disadvantaged. And this work, of course, is about children who are disabled, and the book seeks, and I think succeeds, in improving our understanding of the law and practice concerning those vulnerable children, and how the administration of justice and the organisation of legal services operate in what is a difficult area of social welfare law. It's not an easy area. Actually, with the work I've done with children, they're never easy cases, because there's a lot of emotion and a lot of difficulty, rightly, in the decision-making processes that have to take place. The paperback has been rightly described, quote, as authoritative yet accessible, and it guides us through the legal rights of disabled children, of young people, and of their families in England itself. And the leading co-author of the original work was Professor Janet Reed, who created the foundational work for the book, and it's now been taken over and is currently being undertaken by Professor Luke Clements, and he's got a field of expert lawyers to go and advisors to go with him, and I've mentioned them, and they're obviously mentioned inside. So it's a very much a collaborative effort, and of course it's done in coordination with the Council for Disabled Children. Now, as all the authors point out, the law in relation to this important group people is complex and frequently misunderstood by those who have duties and responsibilities toward them. And of course, many families also lack essential information about legal matters which substantially affect their lives, and about the ways the law might be used to assist them. And I'm very grateful to LAG and to the Council, because as a very strong supporter of public legal education, we need in this day and age, the 2020s, to make people understand how the legal system works. So many people don't. They have misunderstandings created mainly by the television programs they see and the films they see, which is unfortunate, because in fact public legal education is there through books like this, which are relatively cheap, to try to give people an idea of where they're going within the process and what they can and can't achieve. And what we have here is a highly experienced team led by Clements, and they expertly, I think, navigate the reader through the many often overlapping sources of law in this area. And the book explains succinctly the differences between what publics must do to support disabled children and that which they may do. And I think that's an important point, basically in terms of obligations and responsibilities. So we consider, Elizabeth and I talked about the book, and we consider that this work will be essential reading for those working with disabled children and their families in a number of sectors: the charitable sector, independent or statutory sectors, and of course it will include advisors, advocates, lawyers, social and healthcare professionals, as well as those for people in the academic world, learners, undergraduates, and of course educationalists, in other words, the teachers. And in addition, of course, it's written for families with disabled children. And disabled children and young people themselves will obviously benefit from this book, because it provides information about legal matters which substantially affect their lives, and it also gives information about the way the law might be used to assist them. The book was actually cited as being published on the 16th of January 2020, and as I say, it's also available as an ebook. And the information about the ebook is, as I explained at the front and there's a website if you want to have a look at it. It's the LAG website stroke bookshop stroke ebooks. Now, just opening the book in the middle again, as I say, the book is a paperback. It's a bit flimsy actually. The pages do tend to come out a little bit easily, so do take care with it, because even as I was opening and reading the book, the pages can come a bit loose. You can see the middle of the book here, paragraph numbering on the side there, and you can see the footnoting. This chapter is dealing with children's services, of which there are a large number. And can I just say, they're growing, and it's amazing what services are actually available. Then there's education, dealing specifically with the educational areas. Then you've got housing, another area, and you've also got, in addition to that, decision making, the legal framework. So that's the book. I'd like to thank Luke Clements and of course all the people who've been involved since Janet Reed started the original work. You make our lives a great deal easier with these books. I'm very grateful to have them as a practitioner, and I know my colleagues share with me the thanks that is well deserved to all the people who've put the work in to produce this for us. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.